So now we're going to look at the second type of problem that we'll solve when it comes to compositions. So in these problems, instead of starting with a number and ending up with a number, we're going to start by plugging an x in. So instead of plugging a number in, we're plugging in this variable x. And when we plug a variable into a composition, the final answer will be an expression. We should end up with something in terms of x. We shouldn't end up with just a number, usually. Let's look at how we solve this, and really we're going to solve this in pretty much the same way as what we did when it came to the numbers that we were plugging in. We're going to start off by saying, let's rewrite this in the parenthetical notation f of g of x. Now, in some senses, our next step is going to be even easier, because previously we solved for g of whatever that I have written in blue. But in this particular problem, we actually know exactly what g of x is. It's given to us. It's given to us as negative 2x plus 5. So there's nothing really to solve for. Now, the only hard part now is to make sure that we understand what's going on here. So what I want to do first is I want to look and say, well, what if I didn't have that stuff in blue? What if I just said f of blank? What is the f function telling me to do? So if I look up at the f function and say, instead of f of x, what if I just had a big blank here? Well, that function f is saying 3 times whatever that blank is plus 1. That's what the f function is saying, and that's how I want you to see that f function. When you look at 3x plus 1, I want you to realize that we plugged x in. So if I don't know what I'm plugging in, it's just 3 times blank plus 1. But in our problem here, I know what it is I'm plugging in. I'm plugging in negative 2x plus 5. So as far as our function, I'm plugging in negative 2x plus 5. Once I do that, now it's just a matter of simplifying. I can distribute my 3 to get negative 6x plus 15, and then I can combine like terms. Now, to make sure you understand what it is that you've actually done here, you've came up with a formula. You've come up with a formula for f of g of something. So that if I were to say, hey, what's f of g of 0? You could plug the 0 in here to negative 6x plus 16 and say that's what f of g of 0 is. It's 16. Or if I want to say what's f of g of 1, you could plug it into this formula. So you've combined all the steps of the composition that we did in the previous example into one step, one expression. Now let's go ahead and change the order and just see how that changes things up. So if I do g of f of x, then I'm saying g of, well, f is 3x plus 1. And now I want to say, what's g telling me to do? G is telling me to do negative 2 times whatever you plug in plus 5. So again, look up at what g of x says, and anywhere where there's an x, just replace it with a big fat parenthesis. Now that we have written down what g is, we say, well, I was actually plugging in 3x plus 1, so let's do that. Now it's just a matter of simplifying. Distribute that negative 2, and then combine like terms. And there's g of f of x.